She was a beautiful young woman with a heart that was just as radiant.
She wanted to be a model originally, but decided that she wanted to be a nurse.
She had this loving, caring heart.
And when she met someone who shared her same positive outlook on life, sparks flew.
He was confident, fun, and friendly.
When she found out that she was pregnant, she was super excited.
Janelle was a wonderful mother.
But when she goes missing, there's immediate fears of foul play.
Because it's really not like her to go without communicating with someone in the family.
I'm like, man, something's not right, something's not right.
We knew that something had to be wrong.
Police will have to follow a winding trail of breadcrumbs to get to the truth.
She was looking for something new, something fresh to get away from her past.
There's no point of being apart. We might as well just continue to grow and make this a family.
Can they find the missing mother before it's too late?
We found some things that just simply don't add up.
He's got this now.
Oh, you think? They were sworn mortal enemies.
She took things to a whole nother level.
They said, "You're not telling us the full story."
They found blood.
Dear God.
July 19th, 2010. It's a sweltering summer day in College Park, Georgia, a buzzing community just south of Atlanta.
In the summertime, we're talking hot. I mean, they don't call it Hot Atlanta by accident.
College Park in July is lively, very lively. It's kind of like almost the end of summer. So it's like that last bit of rush of just wanting to do everything and be outside.
At 10:30 a.m., 22-year-old Aisha Davis is trying to stay cool in the summer heat when she receives an unexpected phone call.
Hey, Errol, what's up?
The call is from Errol Moore, who shares a 5-month-old daughter with Aisha's sister, Janelle Aaron.
He called me and he proceeded to ask me had I spoken to my sister, Janelle. And I told him that no, I hadn't spoken to her.
No. Is everything okay?
I'm not sure.
He was worried because he hadn't spoken to her all weekend.
He stated that he called her multiple times on the phone and that she never answered the phone.
I mean, every time I try, I go straight to voicemail.
Let me try to give her a call.
I hung up with him and then I tried to reach her and I couldn't. And that's what began my worry.
Hey, it's Janelle. I can't get to the phone right now. Leave a message.
Hey, Janelle, give me a call when you get this.
Janelle was pretty tight with her extended family. She talked to them often.
Because it's really not like her to go missing without communicating with someone in the family for days.
So once I reached out to our family and friends, we realized that no one was able to get in contact or had spoken to Janelle in over 4 days.
We knew something was wrong.
Despite a challenging upbringing, 20-year-old Janelle Aaron always kept a positive outlook on life.
We grew up in family and foster care and custody of different family members. It was pretty much her and I against the world. But Janelle was very vibrant. She loved to make people laugh. She loved to what we call roast and joke. Her smile, her presence, she let you know she was here.
We met in high school around 10th grade. She was funny, feisty, really nice, kind, loyal, ride or die.
Janelle was also a dreamer with big plans for her future.
She was into fashion, a fashionista, I would say.
She wanted to be a model originally, but as she got older, Janelle decided that she wanted to be a nurse because she loved taking care of people. She had a knack for making people feel comfortable, making people feel safe.
She had this loving, caring heart, and she wanted to give back.
She was seeking a degree in healthcare into nursing. to pursue her final career.
It was around that time Janelle met a fellow student, Errol Moore.
Hey, I think I've seen you in class.
Yes, Mr. Gibson's class, right?
Yeah, I'm Errol.
Janelle.
You mind if I sit?
Of course, you can sit down.
He was confident, and Janelle really gravitated towards that.
So, I'm heading out with some friends after classes this afternoon. You want to come?
Sounds good. Sure.
Errol was fun and friendly, and they had lots in common in terms of their upbringing.
Once they started dating, the relationship moved fast.
The couple immediately became inseparable. If you saw one, you saw the other.
And in July of 2009, they received some unexpected news that would change their lives forever.
Janelle was dating Errol for about a year when she found out that she was pregnant. She was super excited. She always wanted to be a mother.
She had a natural maternal instinct. She loved children.
The way we grew up, not having our mother in our life in the capacity in which we wanted it, we always said that when we had children that, we were going to be amazing moms.
In February of 2010, her baby girl arrived.
She was excited and happy that she was finally born. She was very attentive, very caring and loving.
Janelle was a wonderful mother.
Once she had her daughter, that's all that mattered. There was nothing more important or a bigger accomplishment for her or achievement than bringing her daughter into this world.
Errol also took parenthood in stride.
Errol, as a father, was very invested. He was present. He definitely showed that he loved her and that he was excited that he had a new baby in the world.
But just 5 months after the birth of her daughter, Janelle's family is worried that something terrible has happened to the young mother.
No one has heard from Janelle in about 4 days, and this isn't like her to just disappear.
Janelle would never leave her 5-month-old daughter behind and just abandon her.
We decided to reach out to the police and put in a missing persons report.
In the summer of 2010, Janelle Aaron was making strides to fulfill her dream of working in healthcare.
She entered Georgia Perimeter College, working to be a nurse.
She and her boyfriend, Errol Moore, had just welcomed a baby girl the same year. They had a bright future ahead of them.
But on July 19th, Janelle has gone missing.
No one has heard from Janelle in about 4 days.
We decided to reach out to the police and put in a missing persons report. When we spoke to detectives, we tried to drive into them how we knew that something had to be wrong. Janelle had never been away from her daughter for any long extended amount of time, not even more than 24 hours, let alone multiple days.
What's so tricky for law enforcement is to try to understand, is this the type of lady who would go missing? Is this the type of lady who was exhausted from, those early months? What do we have here? Do we actually have a missing person?
So we understand Janelle's a new mom. So you don't think she might have just been trying to get away for a little while?
Absolutely not. She loves her daughter.
The family reiterated that Janelle would never leave her 5-month-old daughter behind and just abandon her.
She loved that baby girl.
Where's Janelle's daughter now?
She's at the house with her father.
Did Janelle seem stressed or upset about anything in the days leading up to her disappearance?
Yeah, she's been in a funk lately.
Janelle had been struggling with some postpartum depression.
Janelle dealt with what a lot of women deal with, financially being able to support your child as well as be present at the same time, which, of course, is hard to deal with for anyone.
But that's not all the young mother had been struggling with recently.
Janelle had hit a rough patch with Errol.
Janelle and Errol's relationship was very on again, off again.
and right now they're off. And she's actually seeing somebody new.
Oh, and who's that?
The family told police about this new guy, Tim Williams. This is somebody that Janelle had started dating.
They were in a new relationship, and she talked about him all the time. She was excited about this new relationship and where it could go.
Y'all spoken with this Tim fella to see if maybe Janelle's with him?
No, we don't have his contact information.
Ladies, thank you for coming in.
However, detectives quickly tracked Tim down.
After a quick background check, police find out that this Tim Williams worked at a shoe store.
He is a student at Georgia State. He has no criminal background.
Detectives reach out to Tim and ask him to come in for an interview regarding Janelle's disappearance.
I got a phone call from a detective. A detective wanted to see me personally to ask me questions about her whereabouts. And I remember just being shook up.
He's being very compliant and amicable, so he goes into the station for an interview.
Tim, thanks for coming in today.
Of course. Anything I can do to help?
I remember going to the police station and talking to the detectives and just feeling sick.
Now, we're going to have to ask you some tough questions, okay, Tim?
I'm understanding they have to do their job, but just them asking me certain questions as if like I would know what her whereabouts was, as if I would ever injure anybody but her in particular. How much did I love her? Did I provoke anybody in her circle? Or do I have anybody that's after me that would harm her just to get back at me?
This is all so crazy. I have no idea where she is.
I remember just kind of taking it all in and hitting them with a lot of no, sir, yes, sir, no, sir, yes, sir. This is all kind of too much.
I just hope that she's okay. She really means a lot to me.
We just had a spark for each other, like a spark. Like I was really intrigued at how driven she was. Janelle's personality was everything all in once. Like she was so outgoing and bubbly, but she was also a firecracker. And when she loved you, she loved you.
She's just the best mom.
At that time, I didn't have any kids, but I looked at her daughter as mine. Like it wasn't no turning her away from me.
Janelle indicated that she was looking for something new, something fresh to get away from her past. It made Tim believe that whatever she had with Errol is past tense and that he was going to be the man for her moving forward.
Well, when's the last time you've seen Janelle?
Tim says that the last time he talked to Janelle was the morning of July 15th because she had spent the night with him.
What you cooking?
The last time I spoke and saw Janelle, I have this day in my head. It runs back and back and back. And I just remember her making grits, eggs, and biscuits for me.
I have it right here for you, honey.
Awesome. This looks delicious. Thank you, baby.
You're welcome.
Timothy explains that Janelle and her daughter had been planning to move in with him.
Part of the day's plan was for her to gather up her things and come move into the apartment with me. It was to the point where it was like, there's no point in us being apart. We might as well just like continue to grow and make this a family. And like, this is gonna be your new life.
Well, I gotta get over there.
I remember she gave me a hug. I kissed her.
I love you so much.
Me too.
She left and she told me she would give me a call later on that day to let me know when she was on her way back.
However, Tim says he never got that call.
Waited for hours and I heard nothing back.
I got honestly concerned, so I called the phone and she didn't pick up.
Later on that evening, Tim finally got a response, but it only raised more cause for concern.
I got a text message back that said, "Who is this?" She said she was going to. It was a place that she was sharing with her old ex-boyfriend. I need to go see, make sure everything is okay.
But when Tim went over to the apartment, he didn't find Janelle, her daughter, or Errol.
Owen was home as far as I could tell.
I went out there with some childhood friends of mine, and we knocked on the door. We banging on the door because I just had to know she was okay. Nobody ever answered. Tried to peek through the window, didn't see anything.
Well, how does Errol feel about Janelle moving in with you?
Not good. Jealous?
There definitely seemed to be some jealousy issues there. I think Errol viewed the situation as if Tim was trying to take over his family.
But Tim claims Janelle had good reason to leave.
Tim told detectives that he heard Errol had been violent with Janelle in the past.
She didn't tell me a lot of details, but that's part of the reason that she didn't want to be with him anymore.
This information raises red flags for detectives.
If Errol had been violent with Janelle in the past, was it possible that he took things too far?
But before detectives can reach out to Errol, they receive an alarming phone call that will turn the case on its head.
Police get this call from the apartment manager where Janelle lived.
The property manager said, I think y'all want to be aware of this.
They found blood.
In July of 2010, detectives have spoken with Timothy Williams about the disappearance of his girlfriend, 20-year-old Janelle Aaron.
In speaking with Timothy, detectives learned that Janelle was planning to move out of her apartment with her ex, Errol Moore, and start a new life with him.
But that new life never came to fruition.
Timothy claims that after Janelle left his apartment the morning of the 14th to gather her things, he never heard from her again.
And now, detectives have received an alarming phone call from Janelle's apartment complex.
Police get this call from the apartment manager. They had been preparing to lease out her apartment. They had cleaned it out and everything.
And the property manager said, I think y'all want to be aware of this.
They found blood underneath the carpet in the apartment.
Thank you for your time, Tim.
Everything okay?
We'll be in touch.
Walk you up.
The discovery was made during a routine carpet cleaning.
As the carpet cleaner is, of course, cleaning the carpet, the machinery he uses is applying steam to that area. And as that steam hits, blood starts to come up.
Detectives head to the apartment to view the shocking new blood evidence for themselves.
The padding that was underneath the original carpet was soaked completely in blood, and the wooden subfloor directly underneath that was also soaked completely in blood.
Whoever was at that spot where that stain was starting was bleeding a lot.
And that became the very first sign beyond their hunch that we had wrongdoing here, that there was some foul play.
Now more than ever, detectives are eager to speak with Errol Moore. And later that afternoon, they're able to do just that.
He's very cooperative and agrees to go to the station for an interview. He seems very concerned about the blood found at the apartment.
But Errol insists he has no idea how it got there.
Do y'all think that means she's hurt? I'm so worried about her.
We don't know. We've sent the blood off for testing to see if it's a match for Janelle, but it's not looking good.
Detectives tell him that they know he's been physically violent with Janelle in the past. And Errol doesn't deny it. He says, yes, he has, but they always found a way to smooth things out and make up.
It's definitely not something that I'm proud of. I care about her a lot.
Errol says the last time he saw Janelle was on the 15th, when she was packing up her bags at her apartment.
And then later on, he had no idea where Janelle was at and was unable to get in contact with her. He stated that he called her multiple times on the phone and that she never answered the phone.
Errol admits he wasn't happy about Janelle's plan to move in with her new boyfriend, Tim.
He knew about Tim. He knew that Tim was dating Janelle, but he assures detectives that it was nothing serious.
Listen, Janelle and I have never had the perfect relationship, but we always end up working things out.
He said Janelle was still in love with him and that they were planning on getting back together.
Errol claims that he and Janelle had so much chemistry that, in fact, the two of them had sex multiple times on the 15th.
What time did she leave?
Well, technically, I'm the one who left.
What do you mean?
Errol Moore mentions that he has another girlfriend.
He says he took the baby to his other girlfriend's house.
Errol's new girlfriend's name is Candace Dean.
So the police are like, well, who is Candace Dean?
Errol told police that he and Candace had dated in high school. Then she moved away for about a year. But when she returned, they picked up where they left off.
Janelle wasn't too happy about that, and she started sending Candace messages on social media.
Candace and Janelle were sworn mortal enemies.
Oh, girl, get out of here. He's got this now.
College Park detectives investigating the disappearance of 20-year-old Janelle Aaron are speaking with her ex-boyfriend, Errol Moore.
Errol claims that he and Janelle slept together on July 15th, the same day she disappeared.
And according to Errol, that wasn't his only sexual rendezvous that day.
When he left the apartment, he left to meet up with his girlfriend, Candace Dean.
Candace and Janelle were sworn mortal enemies.
Errol tells detectives the tension between Janelle and Candace reached its peak a few months earlier.
Errol claimed Janelle actually confronted him and Candace.
Oh, girl, get out of here. He's got this now. You think so?
Janelle, just leave us alone.
Errol says he's trying to get Janelle to leave, and then that's when he says Janelle took things to a whole nother level.
Janelle actually escalated it and slapped Errol across the face.
Errol claims he tried to keep his cool.
Errol just told her she needed to leave and she needed to calm down.
Errol said she finally left, but she and Candace never smoothed things over.
Do you think Candace could have harmed Janelle?
Nah, no way.
Errol told police that he knew that Candace hated Janelle and Janelle hated Candace, but he didn't think that she would want to hurt her.
However, detectives aren't so sure.
They want to speak with Candace immediately to get her side of the story.
So after wrapping up their interview with Errol, they bring Candace in for questioning.
So here's the deal, Candace. Janelle Aaron has been missing since July 15th, and we know the two of you have not been getting along.
So, I haven't seen her in months, and I plan to keep it that way.
Candace says that Errol was only spending time with Janelle because of the baby and that Errol really didn't want to be with her, and he was truly in love with Candace.
Is that why he slept with her on the 15th before he met up with you?
What?
This information hits Candace hard. She starts crying. She's very emotional.
I can't believe he played me like that.
Candace, listen. Tell us the truth. Did you do anything to hurt Janelle?
No.
Candace admitted that she and Janelle hated each other, but she didn't have anything to do with her disappearance.
Candace confirms that Errol came over to her place on the evening of July 15th around 7:30 p.m.
She said he went to spend the night with her and left the next day around noon. She never saw or heard from Janelle during that time.
Detectives are suspicious of Candace's story, but they can't hold her on a hunch.
While detectives aren't 100% sure that they can trust Candace, they have no evidence to hold her on, so they end up releasing her.
Without a body or confirmation of Janelle being dead, the police have their hands tied in a lot of ways.
However, when the lab results from the blood found in Janelle's apartment come back, it confirms everyone's worst fears.
The crime lab confirmed, in fact, that The blood within the apartment belonged to Janelle Aaron. We had positive identification at that point that that blood was hers.
At this point, detectives are worried it may be too late to save Janelle. It's clear she lost a lot of blood.
But who did this to her? When Janelle's best friend, Jasmine Clark, comes forward, detectives will get one step closer to answering that question.
Thank you for coming in today. We understand that you may have some information that will be useful to us.
The last time I talked to Janelle was July 15th. On the phone, Janelle was telling me about Tim, and she sounded really excited about this relationship. I remember asking her, well, what about Errol? And she seemed so done. Like, okay, what about him? She was so over it.
Girl, I'm packing up to leave as we speak.
But Jasmine says Errol soon interrupted their conversation.
They started arguing, like a verbal altercation, and she was like, basically like, I'm gonna call you back. Basically, when he leaves, I'll call you back. And I said, okay.
Bye, girl.
Factually, Errol was the last person to be with Janelle.
The detectives asked me if I believed that Errol was capable of hurting Janelle, and yes, I did believe that.
Detectives need to get Errol Moore to tell them the truth.
After speaking with her best friend Jasmine, detectives investigating the disappearance of Janelle Aaron are more certain than ever that Janelle's ex-boyfriend, Errol Moore, knows what happened to her.
Janelle's best friend, Jasmine, overheard her arguing over the phone with Errol shortly before she disappeared.
And according to Janelle's friends, he was known to be violent with her.
The detectives asked me if I believed that Errol was capable of hurting Janelle, and yes, I did believe that.
So based on those facts and circumstances, we knew that it was highly likely that he had a direct involvement with Janelle's disappearance, but we had no proof. We had no eyewitnesses.
Detectives know that if they want any chance of finding Janelle alive, they're going to have to get Errol to come out with the truth.
Later that day, they bring him back in for a follow-up interview.
Welcome back, Errol. They said, Errol, you're not telling us the full story. We've done our own investigation, and we found some things that just simply don't add up.
What were you and Janelle arguing about that afternoon, and why did you fail to mention it the last time we spoke?
At this point, Errol cracks.
So what Errol Moore finally said was, you know what, it's true. What I'd been telling you wasn't the full story. Errol said, I got in an argument with her about Tim Williams.
Now, what does he have that I don't?
He's nice to me for one thing.
And I'm not nice to you?
Janelle fought back. She argued with him that he was with Candace. He was with somebody else too, so why did it matter if she had moved on?
Just leave me alone.
What? Nah.
Errol admits that the argument became more and more heated.
Errol claims Janelle then escalated the fight to a...
He says, grabbed a knife.
Errol says he grabbed Janelle's hand and that's when she dropped the knife, but he says she kept coming at him and he says that's when he put her in a chokehold.
And then just began choking her, and she began convulsing. After her convulsion, she fell down on the ground, and he said he could not get her up.
Janelle?
What about the blood?
I asked him, did you cut her? Because there was a lot of blood in the house. And he said no, but she was bleeding out the mouth.
Errol said, I panicked and I left with the baby and I left with her things.
Look, I was just so in shock that the situation got so out of hand.
I said, well, where did you go? And he said, well, I went back to my girlfriend's house and I continued my life, basically.
I was confused. I was scared.
He said, I spent the weekend trying to figure out what to do.
And Errol said when a couple days went by, he knew he needed to do something.
As time passed, he was able to gather his thoughts, and then he realized that he had to go back and clean up the crime scene.
At first, he was hoping it was just a horrible nightmare. But when he opened the door, he saw Janelle lying in a pool of her own blood.
Errol didn't really know what to do with the body, but eventually he looked around and he saw a big blue bin that Janelle had used to move her things down to Atlanta. He grabbed the bin and placed her body in the bin.
Then he began cleaning up.
And what'd you do with her body?
Tell us where she is, Errol.
He finally admits that he placed her in a wooded area near Sherwood Cemetery.
Look, you have to believe me. I didn't expect for any of this to happen.
Put in stand up, Errol.
With Errol's confession, Clayton County Police arrest him and they assemble a team to go out and recover Janelle's body.
We went out to Sherwood Cemetery and started doing a grid search.
Eventually, they see something in the distance there. It looks like something covered in leaves, and they walk up and discover a blue bin.
What's inside that bin is the likes of which investigators have never seen.
Dear God.
In October of 2010, Errol Moore has finally admitted to killing his ex-girlfriend, Janelle Aaron.
He claimed he killed her in self-defense after she came at him with a knife, but investigators don't really buy his story.
After speaking with Errol, investigators have arrived at the location where he claims to have left Janelle's body inside a plastic bin, but they never could have prepared themselves for what they find.
What's inside that bin is the likes of which investigators have never seen.
Dear God.
The badly decomposed remains of Janelle Aaron.
Her body literally melted in that hot Atlanta heat.
Atlanta had a large amount of rain during the summertime. And unfortunately, with that large amount of rain, the actual plastic tote that her body was placed in filled up with water all the way to the top. There wasn't a lot left of her body.
The state of decomposition means proving cause of death will be difficult.
We could never figure out what actually cause of the death was, because there was no physical evidence to say that she was stabbed, choked, because the body was so decomposed.
The news hits Janelle's loved ones like a ton of bricks.
They've informed us that they had found my sister's remains and that Errol led them to her. My first reaction, I screamed. I just screamed.
I remember they telling me that she was deceased. And I remember just dropping down to my knees and crying. I remember like being around people and they like, what is wrong with him? Like, it just broke my heart.
I was heartbroken. I was destroyed. I couldn't understand how Errol was the one saying, come home. And this whole time, it was you.
We had been suffering and searching and hoping and wanting and processing and dealing for over 3 months at this point. So the relief came in getting that information that we needed so that we could be at peace. There was minor relief in knowing that he was caught and that he wasn't going to be able to just live out here freely.
Errol is officially charged with Janelle's murder.
He was charged with 1 count of malice murder, 1 count of felony murder, 3 counts of concealing a body, and 1 count of tampering with evidence.
And when he goes on trial in April of 2012, prosecutors don't hold back.
One of the main thrusts of this case for the prosecution was the hypocrisy of it all, the hypocrisy of his actions and the hypocrisy of his words. That is, after she went missing in July, he spent the next 2 or 3 months talking about how much he missed her, talking about how much their baby needed her mother, and then to have it discovered that he knew where her remains were the entire time. And for months he knew, for months he did nothing about it, while callously disregarding the pain and the suffering that her family was going through. And so that was the story we told.
Errol's defense team echoes the same version of events Errol told detectives, that he attacked Janelle in self-defense. But prosecutors aren't buying it.
Our theory of the case from beginning to end always was and still remains that this wasn't an act of self-defense. This was an act of rage.
Now, what does he have that I don't?
Just leave me alone.
What? Nah.
Janelle never came at Errol with a knife. She was simply trying to leave the apartment.
You ain't leaving.
Okay, can you stop?
I ain't letting you break up our family.
It's surmised that when she tried to leave, Errol slammed her to the ground, with the force of impact causing her to bleed out, resulting in the pool of blood found in the apartment.
This was an act of enraged young man responding to a situation that he could no longer control, and that is namely Janelle moving on and seeing a new guy and starting a new life. He has this personality type of narcissism. I'm going to be the one to control this. I'm going to be the one to prevail. And so it's that very personality type that led to the murder in the first place.
But after the jury retires to deliberate, they send shockwaves through the courtroom.
Some of the jury believes that Errol was telling the truth.
You have 12 jurors. You have to have an unanimous verdict. It has to be all 12. When they show what happened, they make a decision, guilty or not.
They can't reach a decision. So ultimately, the court is left to declare a mistrial.
I was extremely nervous when the mistrial happened and that he may get away with it. I was very worried. And he had been twisting the story and maneuvering it the entire time. So there's always that in the back of your mind, like they could possibly believe that. And he could possibly get away with it.
Errol Moore used the self-defense issue, which shows you even more that he really had no remorse for Janelle. If he did, he would take responsibility for it and not put the family through that trial again.
To go through a trial is just grueling in itself. To go through that process, especially with someone who you love and you're close with, but then to watch and hear a mistrial and to just feel like that person is getting away, even if it's just momentarily, that feeling of helplessness, that feeling of that person possibly getting away with taking your loved one from you and there's nothing you can do about it. I don't wish that feeling on anyone.
But prosecutors encourage Janelle's loved ones to keep the faith.
He doesn't get released on bond or nothing like that. They just try it again. To have a verdict, you have to have all 12 people make the same decision on it. It can't be a majority.
So in April 2012, the second trial began. And honestly, I will say I didn't want to get my hopes up. I was hoping that this time around, justice would be served and we would get some progress, but didn't have my hopes up high for it.
This time, the district attorney's office presented basically the same evidence as last time, trying to show that this was not an accident. This was premeditated jealousy.
And this time, the jury agrees.
The jury in Clayton County found Errol Moore guilty of voluntary manslaughter, tampering with evidence, aggravated assault.
Voluntary manslaughter, meaning that Errol Moore did kill Janelle Aaron, but it was in a heat of passion. It wasn't a malice, intentional murder.
Clayton County judge sentenced Errol Moore to 36 years behind bars, which seems like not enough time in this case.
I was relieved when I heard the verdict to an extent, but unfortunately, my sister's life is over. She'll never get to know her daughter. My family and I will never get to speak to her again. We'll never get to see her again. It'll never be fair. It'll never be completely justified, in my opinion.
Eventually, he will be out. Hopefully, he matured and he forgave himself for his wrongs, and the world will too. But me personally, I never forgive him. A beautiful soul was taken away off jealousy and anger. We lost a great woman, a great mother, a great friend, a soulmate, a sister in this horrible, horrible fatal attraction.
I don't feel or believe that justice was served. This was very unfortunate, a tragedy. It was unnecessary and uncalled for, especially considering that Errol had a whole nother girlfriend. He took a life for nothing.
My niece is currently being taken care of by my aunt, and she is in a loving environment, and we're all working together to grow her and give her everything she needs to become a beautiful, amazing woman just like her mom. Janelle, she was a great mother, and she loved her daughter more than anything in this world. And so I just want her to be remembered
To
for
protect his
the best of
professional
who she
sports
was,
career
not how she
from an
left.
unwanted pregnancy, pointing out that Stephen's DNA was recovered from under the victim's fingernails. The prosecution countered that Stephen's DNA was present due to their intimate contact earlier that evening, whereas Reeves's presence on the interstate and the extensive physical evidence pointed directly to his guilt. On October 9th, 2009, the jury found Robert Reeves guilty of first-degree murder. He was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. The resolution of the case brought a somber sense of justice to Latrice's family, while exposing the dangerous consequences of unchecked obsession hidden behind a facade of public service and moral authority. In examining these three profound cases, a clear pattern emerges regarding the psychology of control and the tragic consequences of relational obsession. In the first case, we saw how unresolved insecurities and a history of volatile behavior culminated in a double shooting, leaving a police officer dead and a woman permanently disabled. In the second, a young woman's pursuit of independence was met with the ultimate act of domestic violence by a controlling partner who chose destruction over relinquishing control. In the third, an influential figure's secret infatuation drove him to target an innocent young woman simply because she represented a barrier to his desires. These tragedies underscore the invaluable role of systematic, objective forensic science and the dedicated perseverance of law enforcement professionals. Through meticulous crime scene processing, careful analysis of telephone records, and the precise application of DNA technology, investigators were able to cut through webs of denial, fabricated alibis, and claims of memory loss to establish the truth. For the families of Wayne Irby, Tanisha Stewart, and Latrice Curtis, the legal outcomes provided accountability, reminding us that the pursuit of justice remains a vital pillar in protecting the vulnerable and honoring the value of human life. The anatomy of possessive attachment. The human mind is a complex and often fragile landscape. In the realm of criminal psychology, we frequently observe how the profound human desire for love and security can, under the influence of pathology, warp into a desperate need for absolute control. When a relationship is built not on mutual respect, but on possessive attachment, the boundary between affection and destruction begins to blur. To understand these dark transitions, we must examine the histories, the psychological profiles, and the warning signs that went unheeded. This is an analytical exploration of three distinct cases where romantic obsession culminated in tragedy and where the meticulous efforts of law enforcement brought the truth to light. Our first case study begins in the quiet city of Gainesville, Texas, on the tranquil evening of December 11th, 2004. The night air was calm, but just past 4 o'clock in the morning, the peace was shattered at a local hotel. A night manager received an alarming, disoriented call from a guest room. Sensing immediate trouble, the manager walked down the hallway to investigate. He knocked repeatedly, calling out to the guest, but received no response. The door was secured from the inside with a deadbolt. Realizing the gravity of the situation, the front desk worker summoned the maintenance man to force entry. Upon breaking down the door and stepping into the darkened room, the two men made a startling discovery. Lying on the floor, crumpled in a near-fetal position, was a 36-year-old woman named Denise Miller. The room was in complete disarray, and she was bleeding from a gunshot wound just above her eye. Beside her lay a .25 caliber handgun. Emergency services were summoned immediately. Within minutes, police officers arrived at the chaotic scene. Their immediate priority was to save the woman's life. Emergency medical technicians rushed her to a nearby trauma center where she hovered between life and death. Meanwhile, investigators at the hotel began the task of piecing together the events. They found alcohol and over-the-counter sleeping pills in the room, but no signs of another person. This left them with two distinct possibilities. Either the injury was self-inflicted or an assailant had fled the scene. The mystery deepened significantly when investigators ran the woman's identification. They discovered that Denise Miller and her boyfriend, a 37-year-old police officer named Wayne Irby, had been reported missing just 24 hours prior. Officer Irby had failed to report for a scheduled shift, an occurrence that was entirely out of character for a dedicated 6-year veteran of the Little Elm Police Department. To comprehend how these two lives converged in such a violent manner, we must look back to the origins of their relationship. Denise had grown up in Kansas City, Missouri, where she was known as a popular, vibrant, and personable young woman. At 22, she married her college sweetheart and later gave birth to 2 children, Whitney and Walter. However, the marriage eventually dissolved, and in 1995, Denise sought a fresh start. She relocated her family to the close-knit suburb of Little Elm, Texas, where she secured a successful position with a liquor distributor and built a beautiful home. In 2003, a chance encounter brought Officer Wayne Irby to her door. He had noticed her garage door was open and stopped to advise her to close it due to recent neighborhood thefts. Wayne was a warm, outgoing officer who was well-liked in the community. He returned soon after to ask her on a date, and the two quickly became an exclusive couple. To outside observers, they appeared to be a happy, blended family. Wayne got along exceptionally well with Denise's children. However, beneath the surface, cracks were beginning to form. Denise harbored deep-seated insecurities and began to suspect Wayne of infidelity. Because Wayne was naturally charming and friendly with people on his beat, Denise interpreted his professional warmth as romantic interest in other women. She confronted him repeatedly. Although Wayne denied the accusations, the lack of trust began to erode their foundation. In the spring of 2004, they attempted to resolve their issues and purchased a home together. Yet, living under the same roof only amplified their conflicts. Within a few months, Wayne decided to end the relationship and moved into a rental home across town. When Denise unexpectedly lost her job in November of that year, Wayne, compassionate to her plight, agreed to reconcile to ensure she and her children had stable housing. But the reconciliation was short-lived. On December 10, 2004, Wayne failed to arrive for his 6 ante-meridium briefing. His colleagues on the police force grew deeply concerned. A welfare check was initiated at the home Wayne shared with Denise. No one answered, and no vehicles were in the driveway. Investigators interviewed Denise's children, who revealed they had not seen their mother or Wayne in nearly 24 hours. Whitney recounted a strange phone call from her mother around midnight, in which Denise uncharacteristically told her she loved her and instructed the children to get themselves ready for school. Searching for his partner, Detective Jerry Walker and Officer James Wynn decided to check the rental property Wayne had recently vacated. Utilizing a key from the landlord, they entered the residence. In the kitchen, they discovered Wayne's fanny pack and cell phone, items he never left behind. Moving down the hallway, Officer Wynn discovered Wayne's body lying on the floor. He had been killed by a single gunshot wound to the back of his head. The location of the wound suggested that Wayne had been ambushed and never saw his attacker. Given his profession, investigators initially considered whether the homicide was work-related. However, those close to Wayne doubted he had enemies. The focus quickly shifted to Denise, whose disappearance coincided with the murder. During a search of Denise's primary residence, investigators discovered a handwritten note in the master bedroom. The writing was indicative of a person contemplating suicide, filled with expressions of deep pain. Furthermore, Wayne's police duty belt was found hanging on the wall, but his service weapon was missing. A background check into their relationship revealed a history of volatility. In December 2003, Denise had filed a domestic violence complaint against Wayne after confronting him at his rental home while he was in the company of another woman. A physical altercation had ensued, leaving Wayne with visible scratches and a black eye. Denise later withdrew the complaint, admitting she had fabricated the details of his aggression. Further evidence of her escalating behavior came from Wayne's colleagues, who noted she would call his phone incessantly during his shifts. The day before his death, Wayne had confided in a friend that he had made up his mind to leave Denise permanently. The physical evidence at the homicide scene grew more damning. On the kitchen island of Wayne's rental home, investigators found a second note written by Denise. It read, "I am sorry. I took both of our lives. Please contact our moms." This was for all practical purposes, a written confession. When Denise was located at the Gainesville Hotel following her suicide attempt, forensic investigators processed the room. They recovered Wayne's missing .40 caliber service weapon. It had jammed because she had attempted to load a bullet into the chamber backward. Unable to fire the duty weapon, she had utilized the .25 caliber handgun. A third, longer note found in the hotel room contained a line suggesting the shooting of Wayne had been an accident and that she had panicked and fled. When Texas Ranger Tracy Murphy interviewed Denise at her hospital bedside, she exhibited severe cognitive and physical deficits. The bullet had lodged in her brain, causing partial paralysis, blindness in one eye, and profound memory loss. When informed of Wayne's death and her own actions, she appeared genuinely shocked, claiming to have no memory of the events. Psychologists and medical professionals often debate the nature of such memory loss. While some cases of amnesia following head trauma are purely organic, others can be psychogenic, a defensive mechanism where the subconscious mind shields the individual from a reality too painful to bear. Regardless of her subjective memory, the objective evidence was clear. Ballistics confirmed that the bullet retrieved from Wayne's head was fired from the .25 caliber handgun found beside Denise, a weapon registered to her stepfather. On July 10, 2006, the trial of the state of Texas versus Denise Miller commenced. The prosecution argued that Denise was a possessive partner who chose to end Wayne's life rather than allow him to leave. The defense contended that the shooting was a tragic accident, pointing to the line in her final note. However, the prosecution countered this by demonstrating that the trigger of the .25 caliber handgun required 4.5 to 5 pounds of pressure to discharge, making an accidental firing highly improbable. Furthermore, her failure to call for medical assistance, her preparation of multiple suicide notes, and her flight from the scene pointed directly to intent. The jury deliberated for less than 1 hour before returning a verdict of guilty of first-degree murder. At the sentencing phase, despite her severe physical disabilities, the jury sentenced Denise Miller to 62 years in prison. From a psychological perspective, Denise's actions represent the tragic climax of pathological jealousy. When an individual's identity becomes entirely dependent on the possession of another person, the threat of abandonment is perceived as an existential threat. In her mind, ending Wayne's life and her own was the only way to resolve the intolerable pain of rejection. It was a distorted attempt to freeze their bond in time, illustrating how unchecked obsession can completely dismantle the capacity for empathy and reason. The myth of absolute control. Our second case study transitions to the urban environment of Houston, Texas, where the illusion of ownership over another human being took a similarly devastating form. In March 2007, 19-year-old Tanisha Stewart was a young woman of exceptional promise. Having grown up in a challenging Houston neighborhood and losing her father at a young age, Tanisha had excelled academically and earned a scholarship to Texas Agricultural and Mechanical University. In May 2005, while working at a local restaurant, she met 25-year-old Timothy Shepard. Despite the 8-year age difference, a relationship developed. Timothy made a concerted effort to ingratiate himself with Tanisha's family, helping with household chores and electronics, and they embraced him warmly. However, when Tanisha relocated to the university campus, approximately 2 hours away, the dynamic began to shift. Tanisha thrived in her new independent environment, engaging in new social circles and academic pursuits. Timothy struggled with this loss of direct influence. Feeling his control slip, he briefly ended the relationship, only to regret the decision and attempt to reconcile. When Tanisha returned home for spring break in March 2007, she sought to balance her time between Timothy and her university friends. On Sunday, March 18, 2007, her sister Gayla received a frantic call from their mother. Tanisha had failed to appear for a planned concert with her friends, and her cell phone went unanswered. This behavior was entirely unprecedented for Tanisha, who maintained regular contact with her family. Investigators began their inquiry by interviewing those closest to her. Timothy Shepard was among the last to see her. He stated that he had picked Tanisha up early on the morning of Thursday, March 15th. According to Timothy, while they were in his vehicle, Tanisha received a phone call from a male university friend named Mark Marks. This call sparked an argument. Timothy claimed that once they arrived at his apartment, Tanisha refused to discuss the matter and walked out of the residence later that morning, never to be seen again. Timothy cooperated with initial questioning and voluntarily consented to a search of his apartment, finding no immediate signs of a struggle or foul play. Investigators turned their attention to Mark Marks. Mark explained that he and Tanisha had indeed begun dating, and that Tanisha had expressed a desire to end her relationship with Timothy permanently. Mark provided a verified alibi, proving he was traveling with friends at the time of her disappearance, which entirely cleared him of suspicion. As the days passed without any trace of Tanisha, the search expanded. Neighbors near Timothy's apartment complex began reporting highly unusual observations. They noted that on the Friday and Saturday following Tanisha's disappearance, Timothy had been operating 2 outdoor grills continuously. The smoke was so dense and out of control that neighbors had contacted the fire department. When firefighters arrived, Timothy claimed he was preparing food for a large church gathering. A responding firefighter reported seeing what appeared to be meat soaking in a bathtub inside the apartment. Furthermore, another neighbor reported seeing Timothy scrubbing his outdoor patio with an excessive amount of bleach, so potent that the fumes irritated her eyes. These details, combined with reports from Tanisha's family regarding Timothy's increasingly possessive behavior, began to paint a sinister picture. Gayla revealed that Timothy had previously threatened Tanisha and on one occasion had physically assaulted her by choking her when she attempted to leave. In desperation, the family contacted community activist Quan Nell X to intercede. Quan Nell, who had been contacted by Timothy's family to protect him from potential police misconduct, arranged a private meeting with Timothy in his apartment. Sensing that Timothy was hiding the truth, Quan Nell pressed him to look him in the eye and speak honestly. Timothy broke down and confessed. He admitted that during the argument regarding Mark Marks, he had flown into a jealous rage and strangled Tanisha to death. He initially claimed to have placed her body in a dumpster at a neighboring apartment complex. Investigator Sidney Miller and his partner were notified immediately. They escorted Timothy to the designated dumpster, but discovered it had been recently emptied. The waste had already been transported to a massive regional landfill. After assessing the logistics and the $500,000 cost of searching the immense site, the family made the painful decision to halt the search, realizing the probability of recovery was virtually non-existent. Following his arrest, Timothy invoked his right to counsel and ceased cooperating. To secure a conviction without a body, forensic investigators returned to his apartment with specialized equipment. Their meticulous search yielded microscopic but decisive evidence. Inside the garbage disposal unit in the kitchen, they recovered human tooth enamel. Subsequent laboratory analysis confirmed the enamel belonged to Tanisha. Additionally, charred bone fragments were recovered from the vicinity of the outdoor grill. The grand jury indicted Timothy Shepard for murder. The trial commenced on September 29, 2008. The prosecution presented a compelling circumstantial case, arguing that Timothy's obsession with control drove him to commit homicide when he realized Tanisha was asserting her independence and moving on with her life. The presence of her tooth enamel in his kitchen disposal refuted any claim that she had simply walked away. The defense argued there was no body and therefore no absolute proof of death. However, the testimony of Quan Nell X regarding the confession, combined with the forensic evidence, was powerful. Crucially, Timothy's cousin, Nicholas Shepard, took the stand and testified that Timothy had previously mused about how he would dispose of a body by cutting it up and burning it if a partner ever tried to leave him. During the sentencing phase, Timothy attempted to mitigate his guilt by claiming self-defense. He asserted that Tanisha had attacked him with a knife during the argument, and that he had reacted in the heat of the moment, blacking out during the struggle. He presented photographs of minor cuts on his hands. However, his subsequent systematic actions to destroy her remains completely undermined any claim of a panicked, accidental occurrence. The jury found Timothy Shepard guilty of murder and sentenced him to 99 years in prison. The psychological profile of Timothy Shepard is characterized by extreme domestic dominance and narcissistic injury. For individuals of this type, the partner is not viewed as an independent agent with free will, but as a possession that validates their own ego. When Tanisha began to excel at the university, She threatened the power dynamic Timothy required. Her decision to seek a relationship with a peer was an intolerable blow to his fragile self-esteem. The extreme measures he took to erase her physical existence reflect a desire not only to escape detection, but to assert ultimate, albeit horrific, control over her fate. The shadow of obsession. Our final case study shifts to Raleigh, North Carolina, and explores a different, but equally destructive manifestation of romantic obsession. On the cold morning of January 30th, 2008, commuters traveling along Interstate 540 noticed a figure lying in the grass beside the highway. First, responders discovered the body of a young woman who had been stabbed repeatedly. About her face, neck, and torso, her injuries were extensive, including severed major arteries and vocal cords, indicating a crime of intense personal rage. Approximately a half-mile down the road, a white passenger vehicle was found, abandoned on the shoulder. Darren Curtis, a commuter on his way to work, recognized the vehicle as belonging to his wife, 21-year-old Latrice. Curtis. Upon returning to the active crime scene, his worst fears were confirmed. The deceased woman was his wife of only 9 months. Latrice was a highly regarded student at North Carolina Central University, known for her academic drive and warm personality. She had met Darren, a respectful accounting student and former National Guard soldier, during her first semester. Their relationship had progressed rapidly to marriage. The brutality of the homicide suggested a personal motive. Investigators found no evidence of robbery, as Latrice still wore her jewelry. Her hands exhibited defensive wounds, indicating she had fought desperately for her life. Inside her abandoned vehicle, the center console was fractured, and trace amounts of blood were present on the driver's side door. During the initial phase of the investigation, detectives questioned Darren Curtis. He explained that Latrice had called him the previous evening around 10 o'clock to inform him she was running late from her studies and planned to get some food. Darren had fallen asleep and assumed she had stayed at her family's home. When he could not reach her the following morning, he departed for work, leading to his discovery of her vehicle. Darren cooperated fully, consenting to searches of his home and vehicle, which yielded no evidence connecting him to the crime. A critical breakthrough occurred during the autopsy. Forensic pathologists recovered a condom from Latrice's body. There were no physical injuries to suggest a sexual assault, indicating the sexual contact had been consensual. This discovery introduced a new dimension to the case. Investigators subpoenaed Latrice's telephone records and identified a high volume of communication near midnight on the night of her death with a number registered to Stephen Randolph. Stephen was a prominent student athlete on the university campus with aspirations of playing professional basketball. When contacted by law enforcement, Stephen arrived at the sheriff's office, accompanied by his roommate, a prominent local pastor and community mentor named Robert Reeves. Under questioning, Stephen initially claimed his relationship with Latrice was strictly academic. However, when presented with the forensic and telephone evidence, he admitted they had been engaged in a clandestine sexual affair. Stephen explained that on the night of the homicide, Latrice had visited his residence. During their encounter, the condom had become lodged internally. Latrice departed around 10 o'clock, intending to address the issue at home. Stephen stated he left shortly after to visit another girlfriend, Velma Newton. He claimed that Latrice called him repeatedly near midnight, expressing anxiety about a potential pregnancy. Stephen denied any involvement in her death. To verify Stephen's timeline, investigators interviewed Pastor Robert Reeves, who was highly respected in the community and often referred to as the bishop. Reeves stated he had been attending a church service on the evening of January 29th and returned home around 11:30. He confirmed seeing Latrice's vehicle parked outside earlier in the evening, but stated both Stephen and Latrice were gone when he returned. He also mentioned that Stephen had confided in him about Latrice's late-night calls and her desire to elevate their relationship, which Stephen resisted due to his professional sports ambitions. Investigators then sought to confirm Stephen's alibi with his other girlfriend, Velma Newton. Velma confirmed Stephen arrived at her apartment around 10 o'clock and left at approximately 1 o'clock in the morning, which placed him away from the crime scene during the estimated time of death. However, Velma revealed that she and Stephen had recently been subjected to a series of anonymous, threatening phone calls demanding they end their relationship. Furthermore, Stephen's vehicle had recently had its tires slashed. The investigation took a dramatic turn when a state trooper, Isaac Cooper, contacted detectives. Trooper Cooper reported that at approximately 1:30 on the morning of January 30th, he had observed a disabled vehicle with its hazard lights on parked on the shoulder of Interstate 540 near the location where Latrice's body was later found. On the opposite side of the highway, he observed a white vehicle matching Latrice's car. The trooper ran the license plate of the first vehicle and the registration returned to Pastor Robert Reeves. This revelation shattered the pastor's alibi. Investigators brought Reeves back for questioning. When confronted, Reeves denied being on the highway and suggested Stephen might have borrowed his vehicle. However, investigators noticed deep scratches and abrasions on Reeves' hands and arms. Reeves claimed he had sustained the injuries when he tripped while moving a desk with Stephen. Detectives interviewed Stephen regarding the desk moving incident. Stephen denied that any such accident had occurred and stated he had not borrowed the pastor's vehicle that night. Furthermore, Stephen revealed that Pastor Reeves had recently exhibited highly unusual, intrusive behavior regarding Stephen's personal life. Stephen claimed that the pastor had made unsolicited, explicit sexual propositions to him, offering to waive his rent in exchange for sexual favors. Stephen had rejected the advances. Telephone records confirmed that the anonymous, threatening calls received by Stephen and Velma had originated from a telephone utilized by Pastor Reeves. It became evident that the pastor harbored a deep, obsessive infatuation with his young roommate. The final piece of the puzzle came from the state crime laboratory. Genetic material recovered from the interior of Latrice's abandoned vehicle matched the profile of Robert Reeves. On February 2, 2008, Robert Reeves was arrested and charged with first-degree murder. The arrest sent shockwaves through his congregation and the wider community, who struggled to reconcile the allegations with his public persona. The trial began on September 29, 2009. The prosecution presented a detailed narrative of obsession and jealousy. They argued that Pastor Reeves, consumed by his unrequited desire for Stephen, viewed Latrice as a rival for Stephen's attention. On the night of January 29th, Reeves had followed Latrice from his residence. He managed to signal her to pull over on the interstate, perhaps utilizing his status as a trusted figure. Once she stopped, he launched a savage physical attack, killing her and abandoning her vehicle before returning to his own car, which had suffered a mechanical issue. The defense sought to shift blame to Stephen Randolph, suggesting he had the most to lose from a potential pregnancy and pointing out that Stephen's genetic material was recovered from under Latrice's fingernails. However, the prosecution successfully demonstrated that Stephen's genetic presence was consistent with their consensual contact earlier that evening. The volume of Reeves' genetic material in her vehicle, his lack of a verified alibi, the physical injuries on his arms, and his history of stalking behavior provided overwhelming proof of guilt. The jury returned a verdict of guilty of first-degree murder. Robert Reeves was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. The psychology of Robert Reeves illustrates the phenomenon of a deeply split personality. Publicly, he maintained an image of moral rectitude, spiritual leadership, and altruism. Privately, he was driven by intense possessive fixations and a history of predatory behavior. When Stephen rejected his advances and pursued relationships with women, Reeves' obsession twisted into a desire to eliminate any perceived rivals. Latrice Curtis was entirely innocent, a bystander caught in the path of a man's unhinged and desperate bid to control his environment. The persistence of justice. Each of these three cases offers a sobering lesson in the destructive potential of relational obsession, whether manifested as the pathological jealousy of Denise Miller, the toxic dominance of Timothy Shepard, or the hidden, predatory fixation of Robert Reeves. The core psychological mechanism remains the same: the inability to view another human being as an independent individual, possessing dignity and free will. In the face of such tragedy, we must honor the meticulous, tireless efforts of the law enforcement officers, forensic scientists, and community advocates who refuse to let these crimes go unsolved. Through their dedication, complex webs of deceit were unraveled, and the truth was presented clearly in the halls of justice. For the families of Wayne Irby, Tanisha Stewart, and Latrice Curtis, the pain of loss remains a permanent reality. Yet the legal resolutions of these cases stand as a testament to the triumph of order over chaos and the enduring commitment of society to protect the innocent and hold the guilty accountable. By analyzing these events, we gain not only a deeper understanding of human behavior, but a renewed appreciation for the vigilance required to safeguard our communities, the anatomy of possession and the illusion of devotion. In the study of human behavior, few phenomena are as complex or as devastating as the transformation of affection into an instrument of control. To the casual observer, the early stages of a passionate relationship can appear beautiful, characterized by intense devotion and a shared desire for a harmonious future. Yet, when an individual possesses a fragile psychological constitution, the line between healthy attachment and pathological possession can quickly blur. When a partner is viewed not as an independent agent with their own volition, but as an extension of the self or an object to be owned, the stage is set for a profound psychological breakdown. When the illusion of ownership is threatened by the reality of independence, the consequences can be catastrophic. This analytical exploration examines 3 distinct cases where the illusion of devotion gave way to the darkest impulses of the human mind. Through the careful reconstruction of events, the detailed analysis of forensic evidence, and the deliberate application of criminal psychology, we can begin to understand not only how these tragedies occurred, but also how the dedicated efforts of law enforcement and forensic scientists brought truth to light. In doing so, we honor the memory of the victims and offer valuable insights into the warning signs of possessive behavior, ultimately demonstrating the quiet triumph of justice over deception. The Gainesville Deception. On the 11th of December, 2004, the quiet morning hours in the city of Gainesville, Texas, were shattered by a distressing call. Just past 4:00 in the morning, a night manager at a local hotel received an alarming communication from one of the guest rooms. Sensing immediate danger, the manager walked down the quiet hallway to investigate. He knocked repeatedly, calling out to the occupant, but received no response. The heavy deadbolt was engaged from the inside, preventing entry. Realizing that time was of the essence, the manager contacted the maintenance department to force the door open. Upon entering the darkened room, the 2 men made a disturbing discovery. Lying on the floor in a crumpled, almost fetal position was a female guest. The room was in a state of complete disarray, suggesting a chaotic struggle or a frantic state of mind. The woman was barely conscious, slurring her words and suffering from a severe gunshot wound to her head, just above her eye. Lying on the floor beside her was a .25 caliber handgun. The hotel manager immediately dialed 911, requesting urgent emergency assistance. Within minutes, local police officers and emergency medical technicians arrived at the scene. The atmosphere was chaotic as first responders focused on stabilizing the woman and preserving her life. She was rushed to a nearby trauma center, her survival highly uncertain due to the critical nature of her head injury. Back at the hotel, investigators began the painstaking process of analyzing the scene. They discovered a bottle of alcohol and several over-the-counter sleeping pills, but no other individuals were present in the room. This left authorities with two primary working theories. Either the woman had attempted to take her own life, or an assailant had inflicted the wound and fled before the door was locked. The situation grew significantly more complex when investigators identified the woman as Denise Miller. Upon running her name through the database, they discovered that both Denise and her boyfriend, a local police officer named Wayne Irby, had been reported missing just 24 hours earlier from the nearby town of Little Elm, Texas. To understand the events that led Denise Miller to that darkened hotel room, investigators had to reconstruct the history of her relationship with Wayne Irby. Denise had grown up in Kansas City, Missouri, where she was known as an outgoing, bubbly, and popular young woman. At the age of 22, she married her college sweetheart and gave birth to two children, a daughter named Whitney in 1986 and a son named Walter in 1988. However, the marriage eventually dissolved, and in 1995, Denise sought a fresh start. At the age of 36, Denise moved with her children to the growing suburb of Little Elm, Texas. She secured a successful position with a local liquor distributor, built a beautiful home, and focused on raising her family. By all outward appearances, her life was stable and successful. Yet, she still desired a partner to share in her achievements. In 2003, that desire seemed to be fulfilled when Officer Wayne Irby knocked on her door. Wayne, a 37-year-old veteran of the Little Elm Police Department, was performing a routine safety check after noticing her garage door had been left open. Wayne was a dedicated officer who took great pride in his work, often described by his colleagues as someone who bled blue. He was personable, charming, and highly regarded in the community. It was not long before Wayne returned to Denise's home, this time to ask her on a date. The chemistry was immediate, and they quickly became an exclusive couple. Wayne embraced Denise's children, and for a time, they functioned as a happy family. However, beneath the surface of this seemingly perfect romance, deep-seated psychological issues began to emerge. Denise possessed a highly anxious attachment style, which manifested as intense jealousy and a constant suspicion of Wayne's fidelity. Because Wayne was a naturally friendly and outgoing officer who frequently interacted with the public, Denise began to accuse him of inappropriate relationships with other women on his beat. Despite Wayne's denials, the accusations persisted, creating a volatile dynamic of conflict and reconciliation. In the spring of 2004, hoping to solidify their commitment and resolve their trust issues, the couple purchased a home together. Yet, cohabitation only amplified their conflicts. The constant cycle of suspicion and defense took a heavy toll on Wayne. A few months later, feeling smothered by Denise's possessiveness, Wayne made the decision to end the relationship and moved into a rental home across town. In November of 2004, Denise unexpectedly lost her job.
Showing
compassion for her and her children, Wayne agreed to reconcile to ensure they had financial support and a stable home. But the underlying psychological issues had not been resolved. The reconciliation was fragile, and the tension between them continued to build. On the morning of December 10th, 2004, the fragile peace shattered. Wayne Irby failed to report for his 6 o'clock morning shift at the Little Elm Police Department. This was highly uncharacteristic of Wayne, who was known for his punctuality and dedication. As the hours passed with no word from Wayne, his colleagues, particularly Officer Cynthia Medrano, grew increasingly alarmed. The police chief dispatched officers to conduct a welfare check at the home Wayne and Denise shared. No one answered the door, and no vehicles were in the
driveway.
Investigators then contacted Denise's children, who revealed they had not seen their mother or Wayne in nearly 24 hours. Furthermore, Denise's daughter, Whitney, reported receiving a highly unusual telephone call from her mother around midnight, in which Denise stated she was running errands, expressed her love, and told the children to get themselves ready for school. Concerned for Wayne's safety, his partner, Detective Jerry Walker, and Officer James Wynn decided to check the rental home that Wayne had recently vacated. Utilizing a key obtained from the landlord, they entered the residence.
Inside
the kitchen, they found Wayne's fanny pack and cell phone, items he rarely left behind. Down the hallway, Officer Wynn made a grim discovery. Wayne Irby was lying on the floor, deceased from a single gunshot wound to the back of his head. There were no signs of a struggle or forced entry, suggesting that Wayne had been caught entirely off guard by someone he knew and trusted. The investigation quickly transitioned into a homicide inquiry. The location of the wound indicated an execution-style shooting, suggesting that the perpetrator had stood behind Wayne and fired without warning. Because Denise had also vanished, authorities initially feared she might be a second victim. However, a search of their shared residence revealed a handwritten note from Denise in the master bedroom, which contained language indicative of someone contemplating
suicide.
Furthermore, Wayne's police duty belt was hanging on the wall, but his holster was empty. His service weapon was missing. As investigators dug deeper into the history of the couple, they uncovered a disturbing incident from December of 2003. Denise had previously filed a domestic violence complaint against Wayne, claiming he had assaulted her. The incident had occurred when Denise showed up unannounced at Wayne's rental home and observed another woman's purse through the window.
An
altercation ensued, resulting in physical injuries to both parties, with Wayne suffering significant scratches and a black eye. When Wayne's female friend corroborated his account that Denise had been the primary aggressor, Denise withdrew the complaint, admitting she had fabricated the details of the assault. This history of volatile behavior, combined with the discovery of a second note on the kitchen island of Wayne's rental home, solidified Denise as the primary
suspect.
The second note, written in Denise's handwriting, stated, "I'm sorry, I
took both of our lives.
Please contact our moms." This document functioned as a clear confession of a murder-suicide pact, though Denise had fled the scene after firing the fatal shot. Following the alert from the Gainesville Police Department, investigators rushed to the hospital where Denise was being treated, despite her severe head injury. Texas Ranger Tracy Murphy attempted to obtain a statement. During the recorded interview, Denise appeared highly disoriented, claiming she had no memory of the events in Little Elm, no knowledge of how she had been injured, and expressing disbelief when told that Wayne was dead. Over the following days, Denise's medical condition stabilized, though she was left with permanent physical consequences, including partial paralysis and blindness in one eye. While some observers wondered if her memory loss was a convenient legal strategy, medical professionals noted that the trauma of a self-inflicted gunshot wound, combined with a mixture of alcohol and sedatives, could indeed result in genuine psychogenic or organic amnesia. The human brain often employs extreme defense mechanisms to protect the conscious mind from intolerable guilt. However, the lack of conscious memory did not absolve Denise of legal responsibility. On the 18th of January, 2005, she was formally charged with first-degree murder. Her trial commenced on the 10th of July, 2006, at the Denton County Courthouse. The prosecution presented a compelling case, arguing that Denise's actions were driven by extreme jealousy and a desire for control. When Wayne attempted to end the relationship permanently, Denise decided that if she could not have him, no one would. They introduced the 3 notes as explicit evidence of premeditation and confession. The defense argued that the shooting had been a tragic accident, pointing to the line in the 3rd note found in the hotel room which claimed she had accidentally shot Wayne and panicked. They suggested that the gun had discharged during a struggle. To refute this claim, the prosecution presented forensic evidence from the state crime lab. Testing on the .25 caliber handgun revealed that the trigger required 4.5 to 5 pounds of pressure to fire, a standard that successfully negated any possibility of an accidental discharge. Furthermore, the trajectory of the bullet and the placement of the wound in the center of the back of Wayne's had made an accidental shooting physically impossible. Additionally, the prosecution highlighted Denise's actions after the shooting. Instead of calling for emergency medical technicians to save Wayne's life, she chose to write a confession note, steal his service weapon, and flee to a hotel to attempt her own suicide. After less than an hour of deliberation, the jury returned a verdict of guilty. At the sentencing phase, some wondered if the jury would show mercy due to Denise's frail physical condition and permanent disabilities. On the following morning, the jury spared her the death penalty, but sentenced her to 62 years in prison, ensuring she would remain incarcerated for the remainder of her natural life. This outcome represented a solemn victory for the justice system and a tragic reminder of the consequences of possessive obsession. The Houston betrayal. In March of 2007, another investigation unfolded in Houston, Texas, highlighting the tragic consequences of youth, independence, and obsessive control. On the afternoon of Wednesday, March 21st, 2007, investigators Sidney Miller and his partner were driving along a highway north of Houston. In the back seat of their vehicle sat two passengers, who were directing them to a location where they believed the body of a missing 19-year-old woman, Tanisha Stewart, had been discarded. Tanisha had been missing since the 15th of March, 2007. Following the passengers' directions, the detectives pulled into the parking lot of an apartment complex and approached a large commercial dumpster.
To their
dismay, the dumpster was completely empty, containing no obvious human remains. The search for Tanisha seemed to have reached another frustrating dead end, leaving investigators to unravel a complex web of young love, jealousy, and betrayal. Tanisha Stewart was an exceptional young woman who had grown up in one of Houston's most economically challenged neighborhoods, despite losing her father at an early age and being raised in a large household of 6 children. Tanisha excelled in her studies, displaying a natural intelligence and a bright, infectious personality. In May of 2005, while working at a local pizza restaurant, the 17-year-old Tanisha met 25-year-old Timothy Shepard. Timothy was handsome, helpful, and persistent, despite their 8-year age gap. A romantic relationship quickly developed. Timothy made a concerted effort to win over Tanisha's family, assisting her mother with household repairs and technical issues and earning their trust as a supportive figure. In the fall of 2006, Tanisha's hard work paid off when she received a scholarship to attend Texas Agricultural and Mechanical University. While her family was immensely proud, the transition created significant strain on her relationship with Timothy. The university campus was located nearly 2 hours away from Houston, and as Tanisha adjusted to college life, she began to experience a new level of independence. 3 months into her first semester, Timothy briefly ended the relationship to pursue a connection with an old girlfriend, which left Tanisha devastated. However, Timothy quickly regretted his decision and traveled to the university campus to reconcile. While they resumed dating, the power dynamic in the relationship had shifted. Tanisha had grown more independent, made new friends, and was no longer solely reliant on Timothy for validation. When Tanisha returned home to Houston for spring break in March of 2007, she planned to spend time with her friends, including attending a concert. This newfound independence deeply unsettled Timothy, whose behavior grew increasingly possessive and controlling. On Sunday, March 18th, 2007, Tanisha's sister, Gayla Taylor, received a distressing call from her mother, who revealed that no one had heard from Tanisha in several days. She had failed to show up for her scheduled concert and was not answering her mobile phone, a behavior completely out of character for the responsible college student. Fearing the worst, the family filed a missing persons report on Monday, March 19th. Investigators quickly identified Timothy Shepard as one of the last people to see Tanisha alive. When brought in for questioning, Timothy claimed that he had picked Tanisha up early on Thursday morning, March 15th. According to his account, while they were in his vehicle, Tanisha received a phone call from a male college friend named Mark Marks. Timothy admitted this call upset him, leading to a confrontation when they arrived at his apartment. Timothy claimed that after a brief argument, Tanisha refused to discuss the matter, walked out of his apartment, and vanished. Timothy provided written consent for investigators to search his apartment, which initially revealed no obvious signs of a struggle or foul play. Lacking sufficient evidence to detain him, police returned his keys and allowed him to leave. Investigators then turned their attention to Mark Marks, the individual who had called Tanisha on the morning of her disappearance. They interviewed Tanisha's close friend, Ashley Walton, who confirmed that Tanisha and Mark had been dating for approximately a month. Ashley revealed that while Tanisha still harbored feelings for Timothy, she was planning to end the relationship to be with Mark. When questioned, Mark Marks cooperated fully. He confirmed his affection for Tanisha and stated that she was preparing to leave Timothy. However, Mark possessed a verified alibi, having been at a gathering with friends on South Padre Island at the time of Tanisha's disappearance.
This ruled him out as a
suspect, leaving investigators to consider the terrifying possibility of an abduction by a stranger. As the search intensified, local residents near Timothy's apartment complex reported a highly unusual series of events. Neighbors noted that Timothy had spent the entire weekend immediately following Tanisha's disappearance engaged in intense, continuous barbecuing, utilizing 2 grills simultaneously.
the
Smoke was so thick and out of control that worried neighbors had dialed 911. When firefighters and police officers arrived to address the fire hazard, Timothy claimed he was preparing food for an upcoming church picnic of nearly
200 people.
Firefighters noted seeing what appeared to be raw meat soaking in his bathtub, which supported his explanation at the time. However, other neighbors reported seeing Timothy cleaning his outdoor patio with an extraordinary amount of bleach, the fumes of which were so strong they caused physical irritation to passers-by. This combination of heavy barbecuing, extreme cleaning, and Tanisha's sudden disappearance raised significant red flags for investigators. Desperate for answers, Tanisha's sister contacted Quannell X, a well-known community activist who had a reputation for facilitating peaceful surrenders and uncovering the truth in difficult cases. Coincidentally, Timothy Shepard's family had also reached out to Quannell, seeking protection for Timothy from potential police misconduct. Quannell X arranged a private meeting with Timothy in the bathroom of his apartment, sensing that Timothy was under immense stress. During their conversation, Quannell appealed to Timothy's conscience, asking him to look him in the eye and speak the truth. Timothy broke down and confessed that he had flown into a jealous rage when Tanisha refused to discuss her relationship with Mark Marks. As she attempted to leave the apartment, Timothy attacked her and strangled her to death. Timothy told Quannell that he had placed her body in a commercial dumpster behind the apartment complex. Quannell immediately contacted investigator Sidney Miller, conveying the confession. They rushed to the dumpster, only to find it empty, as the trash collection service had recently emptied the container, transferring the contents to a massive municipal landfill. While a search of the landfill was deemed logistically impossible and prohibitively expensive, investigators focused on gathering physical evidence from Timothy's apartment to support the confession, which Timothy had quickly recanted after securing legal representation. Crime scene investigators performed a microscopic search of the residence. In the kitchen, they discovered small bone fragments and a piece of tooth enamel. Inside the garbage disposal, forensic analysis confirmed that the enamel matched Tanisha's dental records. Additionally, charred bone fragments were recovered near the outdoor grill. This physical evidence, combined with the eyewitness accounts of Timothy's continuous barbecuing, supported a horrifying conclusion. Timothy had attempted to incinerate Tanisha's remains to destroy all physical evidence of his crime. On the 29th of September 2008, the murder trial of Timothy Shepard began. The prosecution faced the challenge of proving a homicide case without the victim's body, relying heavily on the microscopic forensic evidence, the testimony of Quannell X, and the statements of Timothy's neighbors. Crucially, the prosecution called Timothy's cousin, Nicholas Shepard, to the stand. Nicholas testified that Timothy had previously made chilling statements, asserting that if Tanisha ever tried to leave him, he would kill her, dismember her body, and burn the remains. During the sentencing phase, Timothy took the stand in his own defense, claiming that Tanisha had attacked him with a knife during their argument and that he had acted in self-defense, blacking out during the struggle. However, his subsequent actions of dismembering and burning her body completely undermined any claim of an accidental or defensive act. The jury found Timothy Shepard guilty of murder and sentenced him to 99 years in prison, ensuring that he would be held accountable for his monstrous actions and preventing him from ever harming another member of the community. The North Carolina Highway Inquiry. In January of 2008, a third investigation commenced in Raleigh, North Carolina, demonstrating how obsessive jealousy can consume an individual's sanity, leading to a calculated and violent assault. On the cold morning of Wednesday, January 30th, 2008, morning commuters traveling along Interstate 540 noticed a body lying in the grass beside the highway. First responders rushed to the scene and confirmed that the young woman was deceased. An initial examination revealed that she had not been struck by a vehicle. Rather, she had been brutally stabbed multiple times about her face, neck, and torso. Her carotid artery and jugular vein had been severed, and her vocal cords had been cut, indicating a highly personal and extremely violent assault. As investigators processed the scene, a commuter named Darren Curtis drove past the backup and spotted a white car abandoned on the side of the highway a half-mile away. Recognizing the vehicle as belonging to his wife, Darren panicked and returned to the crime scene. Detectives confirmed his worst fears. The deceased woman was his 21-year-old wife, Latrice Curtis. Latrice Curtis was a popular, studious young woman who was pursuing a degree in business administration at North Carolina Central University. She had met Darren, a respectful accounting student and former National Guard soldier. During her first semester, the couple had married just 9 months prior and appeared to be building a happy future together. Investigators began their inquiry by examining Latrice's abandoned vehicle, which showed clear signs of a struggle. The center console was broken and blood was present on the driver's side door. Crime scene investigators recovered a sample of foreign deoxyribonucleic acid from the steering wheel, which was sent to the state crime lab for analysis. Initially, detectives questioned Darren Curtis, looking for any physical signs of a struggle or marital discord. Darren cooperated fully, allowing a search of his home and vehicle, which revealed no incriminating evidence.
His account of
his movements check out, and investigators ruled him out as a suspect. An autopsy of Latrice's body revealed a critical clue. A condom was found inside her, but there were no physical injuries consistent with a sexual assault, suggesting she had engaged in consensual intercourse shortly before her death. To identify her sexual partner, investigators subpoenaed Latrice's phone records. They discovered a high volume of calls exchanged between Latrice and a number belonging to Stephen Randolph around midnight on the night of her murder. Stephen Randolph was a prominent student athlete and basketball player at North Carolina Central University who harbored aspirations of playing in the National Basketball Association. When questioned by detectives, Stephen initially claimed they were merely classmates. However, when presented with the forensic and phone evidence, Stephen admitted they had engaged in a secret sexual affair. Stephen explained that on the night of the murder, Latrice had visited his residence. During their encounter, the condom became trapped inside her, and they were unable to retrieve it. Latrice left his house around 10 o'clock at night, planning to address the issue at home. Stephen claimed that after she left, he drove to the apartment of his primary girlfriend, Velma Newton, and had no further contact with Latrice. To verify Stephen's account, detectives interviewed his roommate, Pastor Robert Reeves, a respected 43-year-old minister known as the bishop in the local community. Reeves had allowed Stephen to rent a basement apartment in his home for a nominal fee. Pastor Reeves confirmed that Latrice had visited Stephen on the night of January 29th. He claimed that he had left the house at 8:15 at night to attend a church service and returned home around 11:30, noting that both Stevens and Latrice's vehicles were gone. Reeves also mentioned that Steven had confided in him the following morning about a tense phone call with Latrice, during which she expressed a desire to elevate their relationship, which Steven resisted due to his athletic ambitions. While Steven appeared to have a potential motive to avoid a complicated relationship or a potential pregnancy, investigators also interviewed his girlfriend, Velma Newton. Velma verified that Steven had arrived at her apartment around 10 o'clock and remained there until 1 o'clock in the morning, which partially supported his alibi. However, Velma also revealed a history of unsettling events. Both she and Steven had received numerous anonymous, threatening phone calls warning Steven to end his sexual activities. Additionally, Steven's car tires had recently been slashed outside Velma's apartment. The investigation took a dramatic turn when State Trooper Isaac Cooper contacted detectives. Cooper reported that at approximately 1:30 in the morning on January 30th, he had observed a disabled vehicle with its hazard lights on along Interstate 540 near where Latrice's body was later found. Upon running the license plate, the vehicle was registered to Pastor Robert Reeves. Cooper had also observed a white vehicle matching Latrice's car parked on the opposite side of the highway. This revelation placed the pastor's vehicle at the exact time and location of the murder. Investigators brought Pastor Reeves back for questioning and noticed visible scratches and abrasions on his hands and arms. Reeves claimed he had sustained the injuries while moving a desk with Steven, but Steven later denied any such accident had occurred. Furthermore, investigators obtained the pastor's phone records, which revealed that the anonymous, blocked threatening calls to Steven and Velma had been placed from Reeves's personal mobile phone. Steven also revealed to detectives that Pastor Reeves had previously made inappropriate sexual advances toward him, offering to waive his rent in exchange for sexual favors, which Steven had rejected. The psychological profile of Robert Reeves became clear. He was a deeply repressed individual who led a double life as a respected spiritual leader and a predatory figure. He had developed a pathological obsession with his young roommate, Stephen Randolph, driven by intense jealousy of any woman who engaged in a sexual relationship with Stephen. Reeves had targeted Latrice. Forensic evidence sealed the case. The state crime lab confirmed that the foreign deoxyribonucleic acid recovered from the steering wheel of Latrice's abandoned vehicle matched Pastor Robert Reeves. The evidence suggested that Reeves had stalked Latrice as she left his home, forced her to pull over on the highway, and brutally murdered her in a fit of jealous rage before driving her car a half-mile down the road to distance it from the body. On the 2nd of February, 2008, Robert Reeves was arrested and charged with first-degree murder. His trial in September of 2009 exposed his obsessive behavior to the community. Although the defense attempted to argue that the deoxyribonucleic acid on the steering wheel was the result of a passive transfer and suggested Stephen Randolph was the true killer. The overwhelming combination of forensic evidence, the state trooper's eyewitness report, and the physical injuries on Reeves's arms led to a swift conviction. Robert Reeves was found guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced to life. Imprisonment without the possibility of parole, bringing a decisive end to his destructive delusions. The pathology of control. When we examine these three cases side by side, we observe a striking psychological pattern. In each instance, the perpetrator was driven by an inability